Hello and welcome to House of Cult. My name is Alessandro, and joining me is Ariel, the owner of the Pretty Cult. And today we are so honored to welcome Matty Mullins, the lead singer of Memphis May Fire, as well as Anberlin. And, Memphis May Fire, they have a new album coming out, Shapeshifter. It's dropping March 28th via Rise Records. Just thank you so much for joining, Matty.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I want to start just right away, touching on this new chapter with the new record. We're about a little over a month away from the release of your eighth studio album, Shapeshifter. Does it feel sort of surreal saying that after not only so much time has passed since your debut album in 2009, but also considering the band itself formed nearly 20 years ago? And but with so much time that has passed, the band has never been more relevant, still musically and as musically adventurous as ever. What does that sort of mean to you today? And does it feel surreal that it has been so long?
It's cool, man. I mean, I honestly, yeah, it definitely feels surreal. I would say that it doesn't work out this way for all bands, and I feel like what we've done well is learn from our mistakes instead of letting them take us out. We have grown through them, and I think that's really the only way. Like there's nothing easy about this. And so if you see a band that survived a long time, you can just automatically assume that they've been through a ton. And we have, we've made our own fair share of mistakes. And I think everything that we had learned brought us to the pandemic where we were forced to stop and to look at what it was that where it was that we were at and realize that music was the only thing that mattered. Like everything that happens within a music career, it all stems from the music. And we learned that from being stuck in our houses for 2 years and writing, Remade in Misery and seeing the success of that record, just having made another album like in our rooms the way that we did when we were younger and how it was received. We were just like, all right, I think we've been overcomplicating this. I think that we need less voices, we need less noise, we need more time and less pressure. We just need to make the music that we want to make, and we need to be given the space to do that. And so now we're really picky about writing season. It doesn't matter what comes our way, what cool opportunities. We're just like, nope, everybody stop. We're going to make the music because we know that everything that comes our way, it's not the only time that's ever going to happen. It will happen again, especially if we continue to write the best music that we can. So it's been a wild ride, man. But yeah, it feels great to be where we are right now. It feels like our connection with our fan base is the strongest it's ever been, which is more important than any stat. Like
Oh yeah.
we are across the board statistically the biggest we've ever been, which is really cool. But that's directly correlated with our bond with our fan base, and it feels strong. It feels cool, man.
Absolutely. And with that being said, what is it that sort of continues to fuel your drive for creativity? With a band like Memphis May Fire that has achieved so many milestones, from an outside perspective, it still feels like there is that innate hunger and drive to constantly outdo yourselves. And where do you find yourself drawing influence from these days, especially considering how much life experiences you've had since you were that young kid, starting Memphis May Fire in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is life experience, because that never stops.
Yeah.
There's always more ways to learn and to grow and to expand and to. I think that when you stop learning, you start dying, and I want to always be teachable. I want to always be in a mindset of having not made it, and I think that that's not too hard to do in music. It's like no matter how cool you get, you're never Slipknot. It's like no matter how much success you have, you won't touch Metallica. And it's like that. So there is definitely like the surface level goals that are always, way bigger than your wildest dreams that you can constantly reach for. And that's really cool. But I think that success is defined by happiness. And we just want to continue down the path of making music that makes us happy. And I think that we found this really cool balance between the ability to experiment and try things and go outside of the bounds of what people expect from us, while also respecting the fans that gave us the career that we have. And finding that balance took us down a lot of different paths. Like we've had some records that suck, and we're just like, uh-oh. We don't know how we got here, but we're just trying things and didn't know how to do that. And getting to the point that we're at now, it's like I understand our fans and they understand me and Kellen. It's really cool, the synergy. It's like we can kind of almost guess what they're hoping that we give them next, and we can do that, and then we can also throw some curveballs in there, which is a lot of fun. And the new record definitely has that. So
Definitely. I mean, I was going to touch on that later, but you've already addressed it. I mean, it is so cool that you're able to continue to push the band's sound, especially to this really modern level of production, especially with what Kellen brings to the table without alienating the fan base at all. And, I think that's one thing I think needs to be stated so much more is just how incredible the production is with Memphis May Fire. The guitar tones are some of the craziest guitar tones I've heard in this genre of music. The way that your vocal layers are, your vocal chain is like, I wish it was a template that you could just download and put into Logic or Pro Tools. I mean, it's like, it's so cool that you guys have been able to take a sound that has many people have tried to possibly imitate the sound that you guys have developed, and you guys just keep pushing it forward into the future so much further. It's really, really commendable. It's awesome.
thank you, man. Yeah, so much of that is Kellen, and Kellen is he's quiet at heart. He's very much, he keeps to himself, not a big social media guy. We have to like, pull teeth to get him to do like a guitar playthrough and stuff like that. But that's just because he's so not cocky, so not like out there. And so naturally, he does not get the credit that he deserves. So many people look at our band and they see my red hair and me and like on social media and like trying to keep that side of things alive. And so naturally, a lot of the attention goes towards me. But Memphis May Fire and what makes it special, the core of that is Kellen and always has been. And especially now that he's recording, engineering, mixing, mastering, producing everything for us. He is the soul of this band. And so, yeah, I wish more people could hear all of the work that goes into those guitar tones. And I know like people like you hearing that is really sick, dude. It's like so uncommon. But he does, like when we're making a record, there is not a template. There is not this is going to be copy pasted from this song to this song. It's like every song has its own guitar tone that caters to the mood and to the emotion of that song. He does an incredible job, man. I'm really super lucky to be in a band with him.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Um, Continuing on that, is there an overarching theme behind Shapeshifter as a whole? To me, it feels like you're touching on every end of the spectrum. There's very aggressive moments, there's hope, and there's resilience throughout. I would just love to hear more about kind of what the overall theme as Shapeshifter is.
Yeah, your glasses are so awesome.
Oh,
I
thank you. Thank
I
you. They're
love
my
those.
Thank you. They are blue blocking glasses because I get migraines. So they're not even like prescription. I technically don't need glasses, but long computer hours need the
Yeah,
glasses. So thank you. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Well, you might as well do it swaggy if you're gonna do it. They look sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Shapeshifter, the song, is very finger pointy. And I hope that that can be an emotional outlet for people that have somebody in their life that has hurt them because they are two-faced, because they wear a different
Ooh.
mask in every situation. But ultimately, that title becoming the album title is to turn the camera around, turn the mirror around, and look at myself and say, in what ways am I wearing a different mask in different situations? How much do I believe that the ugly parts of me make me unlovable, make me unacceptable, make me less human? And how are we as a society, as humanity, constantly shifting shape to fit in or to feel like we are the version of ourselves that is lovable? And how much does that stunt our growth from being able to say, this is all of me, warts and all. Um, and I still believe that I'm lovable. I wish that I felt that way about myself. I'm working on that. And I hope that the album encourages people song for song as I go through and admit some of my own trash, that somebody else can just be like, oh man, I relate to that. And that makes me feel not alone. And that makes me feel like I can talk about that. So thank you. And it's all just a human experience where we're communicating through music. It's really cool. But ultimately, yeah, I want to be a better version of myself. I want to grow. I want to feel comfortable in my own skin, no matter who I'm with, no matter what situation I'm in. Um, so it all ties into that shapeshifter.
Yeah, I love that. I think that just resonates for literally every human out there. And it almost ties back a couple questions ago. You were going on, and I've been thinking about it since you said it when you were like, when I stop, yeah, you said something effective like, when I stop learning, I'll just, I'm dead, I'm done, and that's something I've been really feeling personally in the past like year. And, I've run a business for quite some time now, and there's a lot of things within my business, and you just saying like with this album and that I'm just really learning and almost feel like a new business owner again, in a
Hmm.
way, going back to some basics but also learning new things. And it's been so exciting. And I was even joking with my assistant. I was like, I feel like I'm in college, like I'm reading and having these calls and looking at these new things that keep coming up. And it's so cool. And I love, yeah, just the explanation you just gave. Just I could literally feel through the screen what you were saying and like feeling like seriously. And I think that's so important. Like everyone is so lovable, even with all of our crap. None of us are
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
love
truth.
it.
I feel like it takes maybe a lifetime to get to the point where you actually believe that.
Yeah.
And that sucks. So hopefully somewhere along the lines, our music can help somebody fast track that ideal. So thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything in particular that sort of made you want to look inward at certain parts of yourself? And what was sort of that process like? And especially, being so vulnerable with those parts of yourself with this album.
Man, I think that if I've learned anything in my 36 years on the planet, it is that I don't know anything at all. um, but one thing is for sure, that the only times that I've seen real growth in my life is when I go through something really hard. You know, everybody wants life to be about the moment where you're sitting on the beach and sipping a margarita, but life is actually about the moment when you're out in the middle of the ocean and the boat is almost all the way sunk and you're hanging on by one last plank of wood.
Hmm.
And in that moment, you have to make a decision. That's really what life is about. Swimming out past the buoys and feeling dangerous. And I think that for me, this record was just more of that, of saying like, all right, if I admit that I only see growth in my life when I'm honest about the things that I'm actually going through, then it's time to be honest about some of these things. Overdose, that song, is very much about me and my complete and utter lack of moderation in everything in my life. It is so hard. And I think, like I'm a big like Enneagram guy. So I'm an Enneagram 7. I want to have fun all the time. I want to, run from pain at all costs. And it makes life so much more painful to not be willing to feel moments of pain. It draws it out. It makes it worse. And it prevents me from learning how to deal with trauma and painful moments and things. And man, I don't want to use substances. I don't want to run from my own pain. I want to learn what it's like to be fully human and experience the full spectrum of humanity. And it's like, so I just have to be honest about that. I have to do that so I can grow, so that I can, if I put the message out there publicly, people will be watching to make sure that I'm actually doing those things. And so that's where I'm at, man. Just wanting to be better.
Absolutely. And, I want to touch on Overdose specifically, like that track. I feel like in recent years, you have been getting to live out like all of your childhood dreams in every sense of the word, not only getting to front your favorite band, Anberlin, as well, but also
Yeah.
enlisting Christian from Blindside on Overdose, who you mentioned was like a bucket list collaborator for you. You know, sort of what did the music of Blindside mean to you as a kid? And, what was it like getting to work and create with, a childhood hero of yours like Christian?
Dude, yeah, I mean, it's not everything looks and feels the way that you think it's going to when you're a kid. But that is one thing that did feel that way,
Yeah.
especially when I got the vocal back and I was like, like hearing his voice on our song was the coolest full circle thing because he taught me how to sing and scream. He didn't know that he did, but
Yeah.
Blindside Records taught me how to sing into scream, into sing, into scream like no other artist could have. I emulated Christian in everything that I did as a young artist. And so it was just nuts, dude. And honestly, the coolest thing, like the song and everything, obviously, take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But the coolest thing about the whole process was getting on the phone with him and talking about the song
Yeah.
before he did the vocal. Because I'm in my car in the parking lot at Ross.
Nice.
and we're on the phone talking, and he's Swedish, obviously, so there's a little bit of a communication barrier there. He can speak English, but just as far as like translating the concept of the song and things, and we're just talking about what the song means to me, and he really cared, like he really wanted to understand it, not just like do it for a paycheck, but really wanted to like be a part of the mission of the song. And he's awesome, dude. He's so cool. Like he's just as cool as you think he is. And I saw him at Furnace Fest, and I was watching from behind the stage. They're still so unbelievable live, dude. And I saw that he had brought his daughter to America for that show, and he was hanging out with her on stage. So I didn't want to interrupt him, and we had never actually met in person. But I just saw him, and I was like, God, he looks so cool. And I wanted to say hi, but I didn't want to interrupt. And then later on, he direct messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, I saw you behind the stage. I just want to know I saw you." And I was like, ah. Told my wife, I was like, "He saw me." But but yeah, it's like like no matter what kind of success we feel or experience or whatever, there's always going to be those people that I fully have to admit I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the art that they had created. And so to me, they're larger than life. Christian is a rock star to me and always will be. It's a very cool thing to have him on that song for sure.
That's so great. I mean, I can't think of a record like Silence, for instance. Like
Yeah.
that should have been the the biggest album of that year in like 2003 when it came out. I mean, it
Yeah.
holds up so incredibly well.
Dude,
Like,
there's so many records like that, but the thing is like had they gotten the commercial success that we all think that they deserve, they wouldn't have the reputation that they have. So
true.
Acceptance, Phantoms,
Yeah.
Terminal, How the Lonely Keep, My
Favorite
American
album.
Heart, yeah, My American Heart, Hiding Inside the Horrible Weather. Um, these are albums that you can talk about, in large masses, and people will be like, "What's that?" But then there's the pocket of people like, "Oh, that album, like it changed my life," and it's almost like they're more important in that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I am glad in some senses that Silence did what it did, and that About a Burning Fire did what it did, because for me, it changed my life,
Yeah.
truly.
It definitely changed my life too. Yeah, I bought About a Burning Fire day it came out
Oh
in
yeah, same.
2004. I
Yeah.
was in fourth grade and I just saw the cover. It was on like a Best Buy end cap. I was probably buying, I don't know, like a Thursday album or something like that. And then
Yep.
it's like, yeah, I'll pick this up and it's fucking incredible. I mean, just
So sick, man.
such a great band. And
Yeah.
kind of switching gears a little bit, I would love to hear about, sort of your process of sort of how you come up with the hooks and melodies for your songs. I mean, you really have such an impressive way of, fusing these earworm pop elements that are so instantly tangible. And though they are super catchy, they're so evocative and have such a way of translating a wide degree of emotion so clearly to the point where it's, whether it's sadness, anger, or resilience, how do these vocal hook ideas tend to spark within your mind in the studio? Like, are you finding that they come just very easily and naturally as soon as you hear the song, or are you actually really sitting down and conceptualizing, what that's ultimately going to sound like?
Every song is different. There's really no one way, like right way to do it. But I will say I've learned that inspiration doesn't come in the moments that you think it's going to come in. Like it's usually you're at the grocery store and you're like, oh, got this idea. But you could be like in Hawaii looking at the sunset and just feel writer's block, right? Life doesn't work that way. It's more so like when the things in your brain are firing, and a lot of times we don't have control over dopamine rushes and all of that, right? So it's like what I have learned is that when Kellen sends me a demo, an instrumental, I listen to it right then and there. If I'm in my car, through my car speakers. If I'm walking around, I listen to it on my phone. And the very first time that I listen to something that he sends me, I also have a voice recorder going at the same time because I want to trust my gut. The first thing that I hear, the first thing that I want to sing to that is what I wish was there already. And if that's the case, then that probably means something, and that'll change shape. But I will say 100% of the melody for the chorus of Blood and Water, I wrote the very first time that I listened through that song. The
Nice.
very first time. And it's almost like it's like an intuition. It's more of like a guessing game than it is about like, this is what's right. But when that hits, and it's just like, I want to come in on this. And I want to hear this note right there. And I want it to go heavy right there, but I want it to dial back right there. It's all a natural feeling that hopefully, the very first time you can come up with something that will, be that for everybody, what everybody is kind of like wanting to hear from that. Um, and it doesn't always work that way, but when it does, it usually means that there's a special song. Make Believe is like that too. Make Believe, the chorus of that song, I was driving into the post office parking lot and had that melody the very first time that I listened through the song. So sometimes it doesn't, that does not happen. And I have some like shot melody. That's some awful thing that's like, oh, I got to throw that away. But there is the times when that does work and it's really special.
I think I'm noticing a theme here, post office, Ross parking lot,
Grocery
grocery
stores.
store.
I'm just talking about Spring Hill, Tennessee. I'm just mapping out Spring Hill, Tennessee.
I'm like, I think that might be the recipe right there.
Yeah.
That's the method to the madness
Go
right
to
there.
your local corporate establishments.
Yeah.
That's where we find
Do some
inspiration.
mundane stuff and
Yeah.
just something incredible is going to happen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to touch back on just, the larger conversation of, Shapeshifters coming out next month. The year is 2025, and Memphis May Fire has, what has experienced so many different iterations of the music industry machine, whether that be passing trends, the ups and downs of music consumption, physical media no longer really being as much of a thing, in the terms of it was, initially when the band first started. What do you sort of make of the state of heavy music and rock today, as somebody that has experienced so many different sides of it at this point?
It's certainly an exciting time, dude. It's hard to really pinpoint how big of a movement this is right now, but I would also say that about being on Warped Tour in 2012 and not really knowing or seeing what was happening until after, and you're like, whoa, that was a huge moment, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like that might be happening again right now. Heavy music is back for sure. And I think everyone is hoping that it's not just being carried as a trend, but that it's really getting a spotlight again in a big way. And Warped Tour coming back and everything, it just feels like the moment. It feels like a very special moment. And for those of us that are still here and have been working all along, through the ebbs and the flows, it's an especially cool and rewarding moment. I think heavy music is bigger than it's ever been right now.
Absolutely. I know. It's so incredible to see. I mean, obviously, your band, Spirit Box, Sleep Token, so many different bands like right now. It is so incredible that, it's all ages listening now too, which is so incredible.
So
Whether
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's
Yeah. We have multi-generational shows now.
yeah.
Like we have the parents that grew up on us with their kids who are now almost teenagers that are like super into us. Not
Yeah.
like not like my dad was into the Beatles, so I think they're cool, but like
No.
they're discovering our new music as it comes out too, right? So
Yeah.
dad's favorite album is The Hollow, and his daughter's favorite album is Remade in Misery. It's the craziest thing, dude, to see it in real life. You're so right, dude. It's all ages. It's sick. It's awesome. And I can't wait to see what the crowds look like at Warped Tour. I think it's going to be special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so happy that it's coming back. Obviously it's not, 30 dates, but I think it's going to be even
Thank
more
God.
impactful. I know, right? Like, does it need to be 30 dates, at this point?
No,
Probably not.
honestly, I think they picked some cool locations that are fun to travel to.
Yeah.
So people will be stoked to, and honestly, like the whole crew and all the bands will be in much higher spirits with it not being 90 100-degree shows, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I'm excited. The Pretty Cult's going to be at the Long Beach date. And my first big festival with my brand ever was a Warped Tour. So it's going to be cool for us too as a bigger brand now and going back and vending a traditional Warped Tour, going to this new one as a sponsor and just seeing the difference and just getting to be a part of it, and I attended when I was in high school and college and now getting to be a part of it in a different way. It's just going to be really cool for sure.
that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure to come and say what's up to you. Hopefully at your
Yeah,
at your tent or
absolutely.
something like that. But we'll be excited to see everybody and give hugs, and it'll be a cool day.
Yeah, it's going to be the
Absolutely.
best.
It's kind of sad. I've only been to one Warp Tour in my entire life, which is really weird. I grew up in Seattle, going to shows at El Corazon,
Oh
Showbox my
yeah.
whole life, but only went to one Warp Tour for some reason, and it was 2012. And I really regret that so much. But maybe because it was like all the way in Auburn, Washington, which is like an hour and a half away from Seattle.
Yeah.
It's like, you
Yeah, and
know,
before that it was at the Gorge,
yeah, the
right?
Gorge. Yeah,
Yeah.
super hard to get to. Yeah.
In George, Washington.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
Gorge in
actual
George.
name of the city for those of you that don't know. The Gorge in George, and the place is called George Washington. How crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, it's
The
crazy.
Gorge is so sick though, dude. I mean, it's the giant stage like right on this running water, this big like overlook canyon kind of thing. Really beautiful.
Yeah, it looked absolutely gorgeous. I know they do like lots of, like EDM festivals out there now, and like Dave Matthews Band will go out there and
Of
play to like
course.
a million
Yep.
people.
Yep. Yep, for sure. That's definitely the market.
For sure.
Speaking of touring, I want to know, how is it balancing touring with studio duties between Memphis May Fire and Anberlin? Like, how do you make it work logistically? What kind of space do you need to allow yourself to be at home with family and friends? Like, what is that like? I am also a huge Anberlin fan, so I need to know this.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, the truth is that I don't know yet. It has been absolutely psychotic. And I'm just doing it. I'm not like trying to figure it out, because I think the more I try to figure out the logistics of being in two full-time bands, the more I realize how impossible it is. And so if I just do it, then it happens, right? So I leave in, I don't know, less than 10 days, go to Tampa and rehearse, and I'm on a full US for the 20 years of Never Take Friendship personal tour. And then I fly home from that into day one of rehearsals for the Shapeshifter tour. And then we bus out and we start a whole nother full US tour. And last year was like that, but it just so happened that it was 6 weeks of Memphis into 12 weeks of Anberlin into 6 more weeks of Memphis. So I was gone for almost 7 months straight. And if you look at that on paper and you like start to analyze, like, oh, my friends are going to forget who I am.
Yeah.
because I'm never home. My nieces and nephews, every birthday party, every holiday, it's like, you know what I mean? Um, but I know for a fact that had I said no, the wondering what if for the rest of my life would be far more painful than what it looks like just to go through the motions right now. Now that I'm done complaining, it is the coolest. It is the coolest thing of all time. I
Yeah.
just don't know. I don't know how to explain the schedule of how things work. Besides, both of my bands now are being so generous with, like, my manager has to work with Anberlin's manager, who works with Memphis's booking agent, who works with Anberlin's booking agent, and everybody has to collaborate together on what I can and can't do. Um,
Yeah.
so like Anberlin has stuff that you guys don't know about yet, that could conflict with Memphis stuff, but like I am flying from tour, like during the last Memphis tour with Asking Alexandria, I canceled our Nashville show for Memphis and flew to Vegas to do 2 days at When We Were Young with Anberlin, and then flew right back to start back up with Memphis. And it's just those kind of things where there's not a lot of sacrifice that has to be made other than the fact that like I will always be doing something. And it's awesome. I love both bands. I love the guys in Anberlin. They're so special to me. Obviously, a huge influence, massive, maybe one of the biggest influences on me as a whole. And so to go out and to do this Never Take tour is crazy. And there's also something else happening in association with that people don't know about yet that is also so crazy, insanely sick. That it makes it,
Ah,
yeah, it makes it
I'm
all
so
worth it. But
excited.
yeah, I can't wait for you guys to find out about that. It is special and it is so exciting. Yeah.
That's so
That's
cool.
sick.
Is there any particular deep cut from Never Take Friendship Personal that you're looking forward to playing the most live this tour?
Yeah, there's a few songs that we haven't played live and that we probably won't play live after this tour
Yeah.
because of um because like what would be considered a deep cut for Anberlin to a lot of people is a hit. They think it's a hit, right? You know,
Yeah.
like Audrey, or like Dance, like these songs that Dance, Krista
Yeah, of
Pafkin, if you
course.
want to,
Yeah.
if you want to
Yeah.
talk about the full title. But these songs, they mean so much to people, but then you have all of the big songs from them, and then now we're still writing and recording and releasing music like High Stakes and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? So we have to find places for that as well, and we have more new music that I don't even know when it's going to come out, but it's a constant revolving door of like, how can we please people and also promote new things and blah blah blah. So yeah, Dance is a 7-minute song, which is
Yeah.
nuts. And so it will be fun to play it and then probably never play it again. And then yeah, Audrey is gonna be, I can already tell just kind of rehearsing on my own that that one's gonna be like emotional and fun live as well. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And just, a couple more quick questions, we kind of touched on this a little bit before we started recording, but this is your seventh studio album for Rise Records. What has this long-standing relationship meant for you? And obviously, the company has also experienced so many different iterations and eras, but Memphis has always been the constant flagship artist for this label. What has that experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say there's definitely been bands that have come into the picture later that were statistically bigger than us, right? And Rise has signed some legacy acts as well. And so throughout that whole process, it's really easy to get lost in the haystack. And for us, Rise, especially Sean Haydorn, has always made an effort to make us feel like a big fish in the pond. Because we were there at the beginning of like kind of the big boom, and I'm not saying we were there at the beginning. That was Coretta Scott and Fear Before.
Yep.
But in the metalcore boom, getting to be a part of that and getting to be a big part of that for Rise, um, they have never treated us any different. There has never been a single moment where Rise has tried to change a chorus or give advice on a verse or anything. And even radio edits, like, hey, we're going to go to radio with this song. It might be a good idea to, redo the bridge so that there's no screaming just for a radio edit. But ultimately, it's up to you guys.
Hmm.
We don't feel any pressure from them. Like, they sign us because they want to release the music that we are going to give them.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like 4 or 5 record deals that we've done with them now.
Yeah,
And it's not like there aren't other labels that we have conversations with, because business is business. But at the
sure.
end of the day, when you balance everything out, and my relationship with Sean on a personal level, it's just, up until this point, at least, it's made absolute sense to stay and be a part of the Rise family.
Absolutely. Sean, if you're watching this, you're the best.
He won't, dude. Trust me.
Well, you know
He's
what?
way, way too busy.
I'm gonna literally send him this part, and he's gonna have to watch it. So
Yeah.
Love it.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
switch way gears here for a second.
Yeah.
As an owner, you are in 2 bands. You also have a men's grooming brand, On Point Pomade,
Yeah.
which is sick if you weren't already busy enough. I just want to know, what are some of your self-care routines on the road? Not to mention, you also have some great styles. So for style inspiration, for tour and stuff like that, where do you kind of draw inspiration from those things from?
Man, self-care is hard,
Yes, it is.
but um it's funny that you asked about style and also about self-care, because my self-care, um I don't drink at all anymore. And it's just been like, I know for a fact that for me and my personality, I need to be sober and clear-minded. Otherwise, it's really easy for me to get into ruts. And so my self-care thing is I go shopping almost every day on tour.
Oh my God, I love that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes it's like looking for deals, or finding like random things, at thrift shops that people might not understand the value in, or like, even like I mentioned earlier, like Ross, like if I'm just like, oh, I want a new pair of docks, but like I'm gonna make it a hunt where I have to go find these docks like at a Ross somewhere or whatever,
hell yeah.
gets me away from the venue, gets me away from people, like my band and crew and everybody, that like we are in a cage together all day, every day, right? So like it gets me out on the town. I'll usually run into Cool Coffee and try that, and like maybe try some local food. But yeah, I have really enjoyed shopping on tour as of late. I've always done that, but it's far more consistent now that I'm trying to just do things that aren't detrimental to my health and to physical and mental health. So yeah, I love to shop. I do not consider myself to be like a fashionable person. I'm very disconnected from like trends, like runway stuff,
Sure.
like what's hot. But I know what I like to wear, and I'm really specific and picky about that. And it's been that way since I was born, because my big punishment for my mom was not video games or anything like that. My punishment for my mom when I was like 5 or 6, 7 years old, early like school years, was that if I didn't behave, or if I didn't do what she told me to do, then she would pick out my outfit for the next day for school. Um,
Oh,
and
That's a
that
okay,
good
was
mom.
punishment.
that was terrifying to me, because regardless of whether I'm wearing something that people think is cool or not, because that doesn't matter to me, I dress according to how I feel. And I
Yes.
and I dress according to how I want to feel. Like if I have this thing to do for whatever reason, and I might just like have like a couple screws loose or whatever, but like this clothing item feels like this moment to me. It's like I want to wear that to do this, and that makes perfect sense somehow in my mind. And that is ingrained in me. My mom and dad got divorced when I was really young, and I lived with my mom and my sisters. And so a lot of female influence, maybe, like I stole my sister's jeans a lot, like early on, obviously. But like, just, yeah, I wouldn't, it sucks. I don't want to call it fashion, because I don't know the first thing about like hype clothes or whatever,
We can call it
Um,
style.
yeah,
Style.
Sure. Yeah. I
Wild.
definitely have my own thing. And I have a lot of it because
I love it.
yeah, because I like to indulge. So yeah,
But
I
cool
love
definitely,
question.
that. Great.
definitely the grooming style though, for sure. I mean, like, the pomade brand, I think you've had for a long time now, like maybe over 10 years now.
It was 2016 that I launched it and I just closed the doors on it like last week.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
We did a final thing and blew out all remaining stock. And I posted about it and just said that I hope that there will come a day that I can reopen doors because I have a lot of faith in the brand. I love the brand. I love the product. Obviously, like I designed it. Um, but full transparency, on point, like we ran a really small operation to keep overhead low. And so I could either completely change the business model and go to outside fulfillment, which was just white profit. And I also can't control the quality of direct to customer the way that I always have. And for OCD, it just kills me, right?
Mhm.
But like being on tour in two bands now, that puts all fulfillment on Brittany, on my wife, who's also unbelievably busy. And it's just too much, dude. With both bands, it's easy for me to say, hey, this needs to go away, at least for a little while, because the two bands that I have in front of me, this is more important. Music is my path. Music is my first and foremost. And then everything else is cool. And with just one band, it's awesome and fun to have a side hustle, but it is actual like arguments and stress to
Yeah,
try to keep the doors open on that while I'm on tour forever. And so it needed to go away, at least for the time being.
hey,
absolutely.
you know what your priorities are, and that's what matters,
Yeah.
right? And
I
it can
do.
always come
Yeah.
back when the time is right. If you want it to, it's there. People will be stoked, and it
Yeah.
can come back. Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up. What's next for you, Memphis, Anberlin? I know you said there's some stuff coming you can't talk about yet, but what's happening? What can you talk about that's next?
Yeah. So I mean, just like right off the bat, Amberlin Never Take Friendship Personal 20-year celebration tour happening this month. What's the date today? Yes,
The
this month.
12th.
Yes, this month.
Yes.
And I leave for that soon. Come out and see Amberlin, sing those songs along with me. It's so cool. There's not a single degree of separation between the people in the crowd and me on that stage at those shows. I'm the biggest fan of this album. So being there to sing it, it's the coolest thing in the world. I can't wait to celebrate with all of you. Anberlin.com for tickets. Memphis goes on tour on the Shapeshifter tour directly after that. Our lineup is really cool. We have some super exciting bands with us that I'm sure most of you have heard about, but if you haven't, come out and see these bands live. They're awesome. And really excited to promote that new record. We have Warp Tour, which just got announced. I haven't been able to say that in interviews yet until today, so that's cool. Warp Tour, very exciting. We have Memphis is doing a co-headliner in Australia with Atreyu.
Oh, nice.
And
Oh,
that's
sick.
that's over the summer. So that's super cool. And then Amberlin has South America stuff that I don't think, I'm sure by the time you guys edit this interview that those will be announced. So that's what I can say, I believe, up until
A
this point.
lot.
And in the very near future, more near than you think, something exciting is going to happen that nobody is expecting.
Oof.
And so keep your eyes and ears open for that.
Oh my
Right,
God.
we will. We're
Yeah,
excited.
absolutely.
And I know Alessandro and I will be there with you, screaming at the top of our lungs for the Never Take Friendship Personal, because we both love that album.
Awesome.
I think Alessandro and I, one of our first conversations when I met him was about how we both love Amberlin. So I think that's
So
like one
cool.
of our first connecting moments as friends and now colleagues. But yeah, so that's just really, really cool for us.
That
Yeah.
rules,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah. So
Growing
I'm
up
so
in
sorry.
Seattle. Oh, no worries. No, like growing up in Seattle, obviously where like Tooth and Nail was based, it was, you couldn't avoid, the Amberlin records, the Terminal
Oh
record, which
yeah.
I'm so happy you brought up the Terminal record too, because it's probably one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
It's just,
City by the Sea, dude. That's about
oh my
Seattle.
God. Wait, is it
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't
Because
know
they were
that.
writing it when they're doing that record with Sprinkle at Compound.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
That is
Dude, that
so cool.
record slams front to back is perfect,
You know,
especially in like the emo era.
yeah.
Such an underrated record.
Oh my
And you
God.
know that like that band Terminal is Oh Sleeper, just a
Yeah.
different singer. They
Yeah.
became Oh Sleeper, you know, because our band is a Dallas band. So it's like that whole camp was like, you know, totally different sound, but really cool. But yeah, I went and saw Terminal also at Furnace Fest, and I was front of the stage,
Yeah.
barricade, fist up, singing every word, and it was so awesome, dude. I love that band.
I love that. Well, Maddie, that's all of our questions. Just thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And it's so great to meet you. And this has been an awesome chat.
Yeah, thank you. You guys are
Yeah,
really
thank you
great,
so much.
really awesome at this. Which I don't say about everybody, you know, like fresh. It feels fresh and cool and exciting. You guys keep it up.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much,
Thank you
Maddie.
so much. Thank
All right,
you.
Yep.
man.
Yeah,
Talk to
we'll
you
see you
later.
guys out there on the road.
See
Absolutely.
ya.
See ya.